turned in, and they're rejecting it off of that.
Ugh, Susan Collins. I just want to slap her smug face. I just can't stand her.
Let's see what's going on with the broadcast here.
Make the door better.
Yeah.
We don't have any Facebook eyes peeping on us. We can like take off our shirts and stuff, or I don't know. What should we do?
Question is, I was wearing pants.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm actually wearing pants, but things happen.
It's not. It's
Polly.
The only reason I wear pants is that the off chance I like get up and the video's still on, I'll be like, oops.
Just
stronger than a hair. It's like 4 times the size.
I don't know what's going on with my stream. Okay. Looks like it's live again.
Are you sure it's not just this? I feel like this is what it is.
How did they just call it Pennsylvania?
What?
Nobody did.
It is.
No.
From who?
Wait, who called Pennsylvania? Hold on.
I'm watching. Yes.
Yeah. I think it is absolutely.
No, they didn't call it.
What did they call it for? Or preemptively call it for?
Okay, so we are back live. Sorry about the technical difficulties there, folks. I'm not exactly certain what happened. Sometimes things disconnect. It's not the best.
Maybe you have an Iranian or Macedonian hacker.
Yeah, that was fine.
From who?
Wait, who called Pennsylvania? Hold on.
I'm on.
All right, so looking at AP hasn't called Pennsylvania yet. The reports should be in. It won't be in for another 5 minutes, so at least according to the website. In the time we were down, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland were all declared for Biden. Virginia was declared for Biden as well. But oddly, even though Virginia has been declared for Biden with 20% of the counties reporting, the vote count is heavily favored for Donald Trump, with 548,000 votes for Donald Trump versus 355,000 for Joe Biden currently.
Well, no, I live here.
So I have no idea how they're going about predicting that.
Math or something like I don't understand.
So Falls Church didn't report yet. I'm guessing Northern Virginia didn't, and most of the counties that already reported were heavily like Trump areas. He probably didn't get enough to sway what they thought. Given the polls and everything. So I'm not surprised that they can call it, even though the current count is off because of just where the population is. But I bet you once Richmond and Northern Virginia come in, that's going to be heavily different.
Yeah, most likely. Because once you start getting past that, it's very extremely rural.
They probably base it on, is there a path forward that could lead to a Trump victory? And if not, they call it. But it could be weeks before we really know the real results.
Oh, I can't deal with that kind of stress right now.
Well, so the other question I sort of have about the news networks or the various news networks is there a cohesive methodology that they use, or does everybody kind of do their own thing? Because you will see some discrepancy throughout the night, like one place will call something one way or say something is probable one way, and then later it goes another way, and eventually they all kind of get on the same page. But I would really be interested to know what the full criteria is. It's probably something a lot over my head because I'm not a super academic when it comes to electoral politics. But I would be interested to know what they're basing this all on.
So each news organization has their own decision desk to figure out what like criteria they use, and they actually like make sure that these people are like not locked in a room, but almost like they're in a room, they can't hear what anybody else is saying, and then they just basically like go right off of just the numbers, given the exit polls, the results, and the regular polls. But there's also, I mean, there's some proprietary stuff going on there and how they do the exit polling data and some of the predictive models I think is shared. But the actual decision goes to the actual news organizations themselves, and they don't usually go off of each other.
A very tall glass of liquor right now. I can't see clearly.
Dude, so I have a funny story about that. Can I tell you right now?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to... I don't understand exactly why... Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I'm trying to communicate with Marcus, our unseen reporter. I'm just trying to direct him to Leocoris Center. I don't understand exactly why their AP is declaring so early, though. AP is usually pretty conservative as far as declaring elections and not declaring them early.
But they didn't declare any elections early that weren't already like basically in Biden's like camp, pretty much statistically, like not a possibility for like him to lose, you know?
Yeah, this is looking way too much for my comfort, like 2016 though, with a lot of early results in small, numerically small states being declared for the Democrats, and you know, I don't know. It's disconcerting.
Well, the results didn't change. They didn't call anything they didn't know.
They did actually. They did call several states and then changed the calls after more votes came in 2016. We're talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but you know, I'm not saying it didn't happen. That was a stressful time for all of us. So.
Also, they're calling states in a weird way. So, like I said, with Virginia, even the vote totals have gone even more wildly in Trump's favor, but it's declared for Biden. If you look at the Senate race, again, the Republican nominee for Senate in Virginia is losing to the Democrat is losing to the Republican by 200,000 votes. I don't have county level detail on this reporting. I might go and try and find county level detail on a map. But these declarations just don't make much sense.
I would bet you dollars to donuts. There's two things going on. The heavily Democratic counties did not report yet, and B, Trump and or the Republicans underperformed their performance in the heavily red counties. So you have those two combinations of things, with the combination of the fact that the polls are overwhelmingly in Biden's favor, and you don't need that much to actually call it.
The actual results don't look that way. So, 200,000 is a pretty wide margin.
I will bet you dollars to donuts. Those are in the heavily red areas of Virginia. It's probably not sampling Newport News. Probably not sampling a lot of Richmond. There's probably a lot of just Northern Virginia in general that needs to go up there. That's my guess. I don't know, but you know.
Let me see if I can find actual a map that goes county level, because the results that aren't county level don't seem to be sufficient to really analyze this.
So right now NBC had, what did they have, 44 electoral votes for Trump and 37 for Biden.
44, 37 for Biden.
44 for Biden, 37 for Trump.
That's too
I'll let you
close.
stay
I
on,
don't-
James.
Sorry?
I'll let you stay on.
At least till 9 p.m.
Okay, I might not be on past then. Seeing somebody, so I'm gonna hop off. But happy election night, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
B,
Yeah.
are you mocking me? Hey, I know we were literally just talking about, not being too preemptive, but I'm looking at the Associated Press right now, and right now they're saying that Biden is leading in Texas. Obviously, way super presumptive to say anything definitive about that, but like, guys.
He's way outperforming Hillary Clinton in Texas.
But with all the goddamn questions.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's the thing is like, if the thing with that is that Biden doesn't need Texas to win, but Trump does.
Right. So
Like that's kind of the big thing there for me is if again, this is all super preliminary, so none of it means anything, but if we get that one little win, or not win, one huge win in Texas there, I don't know the math because I haven't been breaking it down, but like that might be game over for Trump.
So roads to winning that have been reported are if Biden wins Pennsylvania and either Michigan, Texas, or Florida, he's almost guaranteed to win. There's like an 89% chance that he wins in those cases. There's some other roads to winning, but those are the most likely. Pennsylvania is the linchpin for a lot of it, and so.
Yeah, I'm how did we get to this point as a nation? I don't know.
It's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very disappointing. Like, it would be different if he was just another, Republican that, just was a Republican. It wouldn't matter. I don't care. But this has never been, I've never felt like this. I mean, I'm 41 and, I've only been voting for, 20 something years now, but I have personally never felt like we are such losers. Like people have said, oh, well, I voted for Trump because he was gonna, come in there and change, and he's not a politician. He's a politician now. He made himself a politician, and he's still not doing things that a politician should do. He's doing things that a crooked businessman does, and that's all he's ever done. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really disappointed that we're even having this talk about how close this fucking race is. It's like,
yeah, well, the thing that I think frustrates me, maybe not the most about Trump, but he's just like such an utterly and obviously incompetent and unimpressive person. Like, he's not intelligent. He's not a particularly good orator. He's not actually a successful businessman, and anybody with two eyes that knows anything about like his legal history, he knows that. He sold this image of this, business magnate on The Apprentice, and he's been living on that wealth since, and has somehow managed to manipulate that into being president of the United States. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on the whole, like, how the fuck did we get here? Like I don't look back on previous presidents like, oh, these were bastions of humanity or stellar human beings, like, but they weren't idiots.
They just called the Kentucky Senate race for Mitch McConnell.
That's
Well,
sad.
it's Kentucky. That they.
I mean, I'm not
last
surprised,
time,
but
you know, this is, yeah.
I actually
It's
do
not
you guys
surprising,
think-
but it's problematic.
Pointing.
Do you guys at all feel like? So I've been paying close attention to the Kentucky Senate race because probably the only person I hate anywhere near as much as Donald Trump at this point is Mitch McConnell. And there was a much more progressive candidate that nearly beat Amy McGrath. I believe his name was Charles Booker.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Democratic Party threw an insane amount of money compared to what Charles Booker was working with for Amy McGrath. Now, I want to know is do you guys agree that if Charles Booker were the candidate versus Amy McGrath, a moderate that nobody cares about, would that have changed that result? Because
It would have been a lot different.
What was the margin? Are you looking at the results, James?
Yeah. Google his AP keeps removing the results here and there. Currently in the Senate race, McConnell is in the lead by 300,000 votes, 56 to 40. The Libertarian Party candidate only has 3.6% of the vote, so really a non-factor in the election there.
Yeah, I don't know that Charles Booker would have been a 10-point swing, but I do wonder if the race would have been closer or if turnout would have been higher. Because, it's all of these mealy-mouthed, lukewarm Democrats are not energizing people to who was it? Somebody earlier in the stream said something to the effect of a lot of people feel like they're being forced to vote for people they really hate.
Yes.
And I just kind of wonder.
I wonder also when we look at some of the House and the Senate votes, some of us voted straight Democrat all the way down. Some people, I don't know if people really knew what you could vote for just president or you can vote for everybody else but president. So I wonder how many of those House and Senate ones, if they win for Republican, will they also win for Trump? Just based on how people are just voting straight tickets.
Yeah, are they voting based on the letter, the R or the D,
right,
versus the actual candidate?
Any of my fellow New Jersey folks, the race for Cory Booker's seat is eerily close.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Cory Booker at 42%, Nick Mehta at 47% with 3% in.
Holy shit!
I definitely voted for Cory in New Jersey. Not, he's still a neoliberal, so I'm not excited about him. But
how heinous was that? Trump the other day says he's never even lived in Newark. I was like,
whatever, dude. You
Kennedy
say
47% to Jeff Van Drew's 51% with 12% reporting. So there's a ways to go there, but that's a race. That's my district, District 2.
Oh boy. The old switcheroo one, huh?
Yeah. And I actually, this is embarrassing. I have Jeff Van Drew on my resume because when he was a Democrat,
way back when, huh?
I used to call his office with, my various complaints and, suggestions. And they invited me to be part of a committee. I think it was the Civil Rights Committee. For Jeff Van Drew, and I went to one meeting, and then 2 weeks later he switched parties, and I was like, ew.
what did you do at those meetings?
I know, it was a very weird meeting. It was like a staffer reading out legislation and asking us if we thought Jeff Van Drew should vote for or against the legislation, and I was like, this is
that's really weird.
Thing to be asking.
Giving them the answers to the test.
Yeah, it was odd. But I am also, James, to your point of wanting people who have run for office, I am also an elected official in Salem County. I am a Salem County Democratic committee woman.
Nice.
I won 4 votes a couple of years ago or 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have Marcus here at Liacoris Center. There's the reason I asked him to check it out is because there's typically a line well past 8 p.m. at Liacoris, and there is no line today.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple volunteers sitting at the table, but it looks like they're also wrapping up too. And I mean, as far as I can tell, I don't see anybody inside who's voting, or really anybody inside besides the two at the table.
Would that actually be kind of related to, well, are colleges doing in-class stuff, or is everybody still online?
So,
go ahead.
A friend of mine works at, I'm not sure which, they work at a college, I forget which one, and they told their students that they have off to vote, and every single one of their students already voted with mail-in ballot. So there's been lines for weeks. Most of them probably already voted.
But to the
Liacoris had lines a couple of days ago.
Students are not on campus at Temple the way they would be if they were having in-person classes. They opened up for a couple of weeks and then shut down completely or almost completely when they got their first COVID spike. So that might be part of it.
Our daughter's at Stockton. She's still on campus. Many students are completely online, but many more students are living on campus than I expected.
Yeah. But still, I think, to your point, Cheryl, I think there's probably fewer students around Temple University than there would be if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic.
Right. And as Joe said, they probably already voted. It was like, you know what? Because we're still in a pandemic, let me not go stand around with a whole bunch of other people.
One thing I've been inspired by, though, is seeing young people stepping up to be poll workers this election. And that's been really, that feels like something that'll last beyond this moment, too, where, you know, instead of like older white ladies, there's a lot of young people. A lot of my like former students are, you know, working the polls or volunteering as, can't remember what they're called, but like the people that are explaining or solving problems for voters that don't know where to go. I have one friend who actually is, you know, is an elected, I don't know what the term is in Philly, but like a someone who actually runs the election, runs the poll in West Philly. So that's hopeful.
Yeah, I guess, you know, those are the bright sides of all this crazy 4 years that we've gone through. Like people who've never been political or now political, people who have never, you know, voted, have now voted. I'm so surprised to see people who are my age and older who are voting for the first time this year. And that's on both sides, Democrat and Republican. So yeah, it's kind of weird that they've never thought it was important before, but now they feel in some way, whether they want to keep white supremacy, you know, going or end it, you know, they thought it was important enough to actually get out there. Or I guess it's also easier now that we're still in a pandemic, you know, 8 months after it started. And now people can vote from home.
Yep.
I think that whole group has set an amazing precedent. We saw a small group of students out of Florida literally coordinate a march, a demonstration in Washington, D.C. via social media. They planned that in a matter of weeks. Well coordinated, well executed, amazing, you know. Like we plan, you know, we all get together to plan, you know, a big event or a conference or something. Like we're going to start a year ahead of time. They're like, nah, we're going to get on there. We're going to, you know, we're going to utilize social media. We're going to work that platform. And I think I'm excited to see what they do. The more that I get to know, you know, just kids of my peers and my children's peers, and just hearing their conversations, they're asking much bigger questions than I ever did. But they're also exhausted. They're like, we would like to pump the brakes on the worst thing that ever happened, you know, like in our lifetimes. They were born, our daughter's a sophomore at school, and, you know, so she was born 2 weeks after, or she was 2 weeks old when 9/11 happened. And of course, we've had just like this series of worse this and worse that. And she's like, you know what? I think we've gotten all that out of the way. You know, could we not just have those cute little catastrophes or something.
Yeah, and 2020 is just like, yeah, you thought that was bad? Well, wait until every single day of 2020.
Yeah. But I think I was listening to some great conversations recently. The longest running democracy in the history of the world was 250 years, and we're at approximately 245. And we have these generations that go by where the stories are being handed down that this is what we had to do to fight for it. This is what we had to do to keep it. But we have crossed over so many generations that the stories aren't. They don't touch us. They don't resonate with us nearly as much. And so I know for myself, it's just walking through life. Well, of course, this is what it is. This is what it'll always be. Duh, we're the United States. This is a democracy. And this has shown me that it took 4 years. 4 years it was that fragile to undo it. And democracy is fragile and has to be fought for and diligently and with intention maintained and protected. And and now's that time. Now we're going to have this young generation that is already speaking that language fluently, that will be able to move forward. They're going to be standing on our shoulders. Of course, they wouldn't have open ears if we hadn't given those to them. But
can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Because I actually had a personal kind of experience or realization recently. So I've been sort of studying the Trump rallies, know the enemy, as it were. I've watched a bunch of them. I actually worked one too, and I have some funny stories about that. But at any rate, I'm a stagehand. I do production. So at any rate, the realization that I had was that I was a child that was radicalized by George W. Bush. One of my first really visceral memories was of 9/11, and basically not because 9/11 obviously that was a tragic, horrific moment, and then everything else that happened after that, the Iraq War and now the war on terror that's been going on for 20 years. And I just every year get angrier and angrier about it, to the point where there are now people who fought in that original war, their children are still fighting the war. And it's not even a real war. So that's what sort of pushed me way far to the left and way down on the political compass. And I think that something like this presidency by this particularly incompetent and honestly just terrible human, through the crisis of the coronavirus pandemic, has the potential to really radicalize. Imagine after going through a health crisis like this, not being for socialized Medicare or medical care, as somebody growing up, developing rational thoughts, seeing the because kids tend to be more perceptive in that age and get shaped in that age. I feel like the older you get, a lot of times the more set in your ways you get. That's why people tend to stay conservative. I
don't know if that's necessarily true. That people, I think cognitive dissonance, I think people are going to be a lot more prone. But so coming from that perspective, that radicalization, kind of witnessing the George W. Bush era. So I look at Trump and I say, that's not Republican. That does not represent the Republican Party that I've known my whole life. I've had, presidents I didn't agree with. I never feared them. I never feared for my kids. I don't think that he aligns. Do you see him pretty much aligned along the same lines as Bush, or even Bush Senior?
So I view Donald Trump as. I think the most dangerous thing about Donald Trump is how unpredictable and unstable he is, and how anybody with that much power acting unpredictably is a terrifying thought. So yeah, that visceral day-to-day fear. I don't think, and I don't think that it's because I don't see a big difference between neoconservative or neo-Republican. Or sorry, neoliberal. They're kind of all in that same cluster of political ideas. It's basically how much of a dickhead you want to be to gay people and shit like that. that differentiates them. So like, yeah, I think that the Trump president might even be even more extreme in that regard. Like, you know, and I guess is the point that you were trying to make, though, that people would dissociate that from the Republican Party because of how outlandish Trump is as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there might be some validity to that. Like, they could just go, "Oh, he was an outsider," and that, I mean, he ran on that whole notion is that he was an outsider. So maybe that gives the Republican Party sort of a path to reconciliation. There's like, oh, he just kind of got in there. Sorry. You know, what do they like to say? One bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. Isn't that their line?
I feel like for all those checks and balances that we thought were there and they aren't apparently, that's the scary part. Everybody's like, oh, well, you know, the president, he doesn't really have that much, you know, power. It's really, you know, the Senate and the House that, you know, do all everything. And then this guy comes in and they're like, yes, sir, whatever you want, sir. Like, okay, sure. You know, executive order after executive order, everything is getting done. It's like, what the fuck happened to the checks and balances?
All of it was nothing. None of it was a law with repercussions. It was all norms. Well, this is how we do it. So it was, we had the first 18 months was a series of stop, or we'll say stop again.
Yep.
You know, and, you know, and I think, and I've heard them, you know, conversations were them saying like, we're going to nail these down. You know, we're going to make sure that these are not, you know, just norms, but requirements. And, but I mean, I think he, if anything, like he exploited where we didn't shore up on making sure that democracy was protected in so many ways. And I think you're right. I think his unpredictability, because we were like, wait, you can't do that. Or does it say
yes,
that?
I can.
Well, but
yeah, Trump used the little known try and stop me clause of the U.S. Constitution to do basically whatever he wanted. Yeah,
and we said
I mean, that's
stop,
terrifying.
or we'll say stop again. And Nancy Pelosi said
To
stop.
be fair though, the whole rule by executive order thing that was not a thing that Trump started. Barack Obama also did a lot of things through executive orders. So I think my biggest personal takeaway from like the whole Trump administration is like he is like you were saying, exposed some of the fundamental weaknesses. But we have to realize that those fundamental weaknesses in our system have always been there.
Right.
Yes.
So that we don't vote any of these problems away, even if Joe Biden wins every state tonight. Like that's not what's happening. That's not what the election is.
Exactly.
Interestingly, I think that one of the if you can say any good things have happened because of the Trump presidency, that one of the things that you could say will be a good result is that I think that the power of the executive branch will, once Trump is out of power, be severely curtailed. I think that people will realize that having an executive branch that can basically do whatever the heck it wants is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so my question with that, and I agree that that's what should happen, and a lot of people are going to want that. But my question with that is, tactically and strategically, what incentive does the Democratic Party have to do that? When like assuming in our ideal scenario where the Democrats take the House, Democrats take the Senate, and even said like some magical scenario where they manage to take enough of a majority in the Senate to do like constitutional amendments and shit like that, and then obviously Joe Biden wins the presidency. Why then give up all that power?
This isn't a question of power per se. This is a question of restoring norms, quote unquote. A lot of what we've relied on in the U.S. system of government is tradition and norms, things that Donald Trump ran against, that other candidates have run against, and that's what really fires up his base, is that there are a lot of people that don't feel the that we as a society need to quote unquote play fair or play by the rules. We're in a post-rules society. We're in a society that feels like it doesn't owe anybody anything else. All these people in the society feel like they don't owe anybody anything or owe anybody any sort of allegiance or need to follow any rules or anything like that. So, I think that progressives and liberals will push for a restoration of some of those things as actual written rules versus where they've been norms and procedures. I'm just pulling up the election returns website for the state of Pennsylvania on the screen for you all. This is the actual official election returns. Some election returns have come in on various websites. Various news organizations are calling Pennsylvania one way or another. There's kind of a lot of confusion out there in the world of calling elections, it seems. But the official election returns so far have Joe Biden in the lead by a couple 100,000 votes. There's not much not much in the way of returned ballots yet. As you can see here, there's only been a total of about 300,000 mail-in ballots counted, and only a total of 1,000 election day votes counted so far. So total votes counted is only in the 300,000 range. Not very much to make a call off of. But as I was saying at the beginning of the broadcast, if you look at these election day numbers, the election day numbers themselves at the polling locations show a heavy weight towards the Republican Party, and whereas the Democratic Party is much lighter in election day result votes, and mail-in votes show a very vast preference towards the Democratic Party. So we can go to the county breakdown. Allegheny County is reporting a lot of its votes, all for Biden. Let's scroll down here. Sorry, I'm scrolling so fast for folks trying to watch this on video. It's probably annoying. Dauphin County also going heavily for Biden, mostly by mail-in counting. As you see here, no election day results yet in Dauphin County, but 30,000 mail-in votes for Biden have been counted. Elk County as well, mostly mail-in ballots, mostly for Biden, although that's actually a close race. And Elk County is one of the middle counties that does usually go Republican. If we look at Franklin County is a heavily Republican county, and that does show here, though interestingly, Franklin County has counted 0 of their mail-in ballots so far, and there were some issues with Franklin County saying that they weren't going to count their mail-in ballots until after the deadline for in-person voting. So as you can see, they've only counted about 1,000 ballots so far, and 750 of them are for Trump. Fulton County, mail-in ballots going towards Trump, but it's a pretty close race there. Greene County, heavily towards Trump. Also all in-person votes, only 600 votes showing so far. Scrolling through, Luzerne County, heavily for Biden, A few election day results counted, 280 election day results counted, but over 20,000 mail-in ballots counted so far, and 16,000 of those went towards Biden. We have Montgomery County. Montco is right near Philadelphia. It is usually a Republican stronghold. They've only counted their mail-in ballots so far. They've counted about 10,000, a little over 15,000 of their mail-in ballots, and heavily weighted towards Biden. 70. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. They've counted nearly 80,000 of their mail-in votes, and 70,000 of them so far are for Biden. Northampton County, that's in the center of the state, usually also Republican leading, have counted their mail-in votes, and mail-in ballots are heavily weighted again towards Joe Biden. We have 27,000 votes counted, and 21 of those are for Biden. And that's most of the results from so far. Here's Susquehanna County. They've also counted mail-in ballots heavily for Biden. Washington County has counted 10,000 ballots, 7,000 for Biden. Wayne County, 5,000 for Biden. They've counted 8,000. All of these results are pretty much as what I was saying. It's pretty predictable here. The mail ballots are going to be heavily Democrat weighted, and the in-person voting is going to be heavily Republican weighted. I don't know what that looks like over, New York Times is reporting that the state has gone to Trump. AP is not declaring the state yet, I believe. Let me just refresh my screen here. Yeah, AP is not declaring the state yet, but it is leaning towards Biden. With total vote counts reported by the AP, let me just switch the view for you all. Turn my cell phone on and the window capture off. There you go. And so the total vote counts by the AP for Joe Biden, 373,000, Donald Trump, 86,000. That's with 7% of the counties reporting. And as you saw just by the election returns directly from the state, not much in the way of returns there yet. So that's where we stand so far. It's 47 after the hour. Not a whole lot of extra information, but it's going to be a long night as far as these results go. So early results showing heavily towards Biden in the places where they're counting mail-in ballots. Where they're counting in-person ballots is heavily towards Trump. Any input from you guys?
So we know as long as Trump is winning in person, he's going to fight all of the mail-ins, right? And that's
he's explicit. He's explicit. Yeah. Sorry, he's explicitly stated that. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that all of these mail-in ballots will be, enough to win. However, it's going to be crazy legal battle, I'm going to guess, with keeping with our democracy and allowing the mail-in ballots to count.
Yeah, it would also be nice to just not have an uphill battle with it. Like if like as much as we talked about the results being declared by the press this early when things aren't actually concluded, it was maybe a little bit problematic in its own right. Because we have that paradigm, it would be really nice to go to sleep tonight, like at 300 in the electoral or something like that.
And be like, there's no
really
question
really like that.
whatsoever. Even if we recounted, there will be no question of who won.
Yeah. Do I think that's going to happen? No, unfortunately not. I don't think anybody reasonably looking at this was like, yeah, we're gonna have a nice easy night tonight.
Whiskey.
Whiskey will help. Yes, that will
I'm
actually help me
drinking
sleep.
I'm drinking Mexican beer to spite Donald Trump specifically.
There you go. And I'm drinking Bacardi.
So, New York Times has put PA back in the undecided column. I guess they backed off from that declaration. AP is.
Wait, who made that call?
New York Times.
Oh no!
New York
okay.
Times.
I thought you said the New York Post. I was like, oh, you mean the ones who said
No, the very fake New York Times. You know, remember how Donald Trump hates New York Times?
He hates them.
Yeah, the very fake New York Times was declaring PA for Trump. They've since backed off and declared it undecided with only 10% of the vote in. So I've brought that up on screen for everybody who's watching the broadcast.
Yeah, I see. That's another thing that I kind of hate about this whole coverage model that we have. Is this stuff like oh, we're gonna we called it a little too early though, a little too early, and they'll come back and they'll admit it. Like I've I can't remember off the top of my head from 2016 or before, but I know Ohio, the second Bush term I think was a big one. Stuff like that. Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's dangerous.
I agree with that.
We have militia that are waiting for that call.
Standing by, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do we think tomorrow's going to be like? No matter what tonight looks like.
I think the next 4 months are going to be wild, regardless, in some capacity. So buckle up.
I mean, win, lose, whatever, undecided for the next, month and a half. It doesn't really matter what happens as far as the election goes. The next 3 months is going to be insane.
Yeah.
I predict he loses. Between now and the inauguration, he's going to resign so that he could be pardoned by Pence, and he's going to be hanging out in Russia indefinitely to avoid prosecution by the state.
I don't think Russia's going to want him, to be honest.
Well, he's just not going to be here to avoid extradition. By the states that can still prosecute him.
Technically, I think Iran has warrants out for him through Interpol.
Oh.
This flew under the radar, but it was a petty thing that Iran did. So right after, I think it was Iran. Soleimani was Iranian, right? I'm remembering that correctly? The guy
yes.
Trump dropped it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, all right. And anyway, Iran put out warrants through Interpol for the arrest of Donald Trump immediately after Donald Trump. It came out that he was allowing these Russian bounty. You remember the Russian bounty scandal? Mm-hmm. I feel like we need an encyclopedia for them when we go back to reference because there's so many at this point. At any rate, they put that out. They filed and it was like a petty there was no way they were going to get Donald Trump, the president of the United States, arrested through Interpol. Right. It was obviously a shot at him.
I appreciate the sentiment though.
Yeah.
Right.
At least somebody's
here's the thing is if Donald Trump frees the country, should the U.S. aid Iran in executing these warrants?
We'll have to circle back to that one.
I mean, personal opinion, I don't care how he ends up in jail. I would just like to see him end up in jail.
Care if he's not in
Whether it be
jail.
our jail, their jail, just a jail.
I just want him out
Yeah.
of power. I don't care if he's hiding out in a bunker somewhere. You know,
We know he likes to hide in bunkers.
Yes, he does.
Well, let's be clear. If he went to jail, he would be going to Club Fed. It wouldn't be that rough for him.
Right.
But
Well, at least
it
if he
would-
went to jail here. If he
but
went to
we'd
jail
get that,
somewhere
like,
else, he
moral
wouldn't become
victory.
fed. Right.
Everybody saw the new White House, right?
I haven't seen it. I heard about it.
The
Yeah.
unscalable wall thing.
Yeah, up a wall.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that you actually can't see the White House anymore is
You mean
the
the
problem.
people's house? The people's
The
house.
people's
We can't
house.
see the people's
Yeah,
house.
we can't see it. Yeah.
He's in a bunker.
All right, we
looking it up
got
right now.
Marcus again with us at South High School. Hey Marcus, so
how's it
what's
going,
going on
guys?
out there?
It's pretty much wrapped up down here. I was trying to get a word with a couple of the volunteers, but they were pretty much heading out of here. They were saying that it was a long day, and that one of them was saying that they were just a little bit anxious for the results, just like everybody else seems to be. But yeah, it's pretty quiet out here. It doesn't seem like there was a crazy long line, people waiting here, kind of like everywhere else that I visited.
So you've been all over the city tonight, and I'm gonna also say to all my panelists, you guys can ask Marcus questions too. You've been all over the city tonight. What have you seen? What does it look like to you?
Well, I started off in Center City. There was a police presence out front, but that might just be because the union was next door. And it was pretty quiet. The people that I spoke to out west and out north was saying that for the most part it was busier on in the morning, and there were definitely some lines, but it started to peter out by the afternoon, and I don't think anybody's energy was off for the most part, except for that one individual who came under the guise of volunteering out of W.D. Kelly when I spoke to Danya out there. I would have liked to speak with a couple people down this way, just because I know from working and living down in this area that there's a lot more Trump-Pence flags the farther south you go compared to, I don't know, generally any other part of the city that I seem to be around.
All right. Any questions from the panel for you?
Any National Guard? Are you seeing a presence of National Guard around?
I haven't seen the guard thus yet. I know usually they maintain a presence down at Quartermaster Plaza down at the bottom of South Philly. And they also tend to be, I think, along Columbus Boulevard where the other shopping centers are. There's also the 33rd Street Armory, which is a junior ROTC training facility on Drexel campus that they usually stash vehicles in. But I haven't seen them posted up around the city. When I passed through Penn Square and Center City, I didn't see big Humvees or any trucks like that.
You didn't see them at City Hall?
No, not like they were posted up before, at least. Before they shut off all of Penn Square and just kind of maintained an area, and you weren't even able to do that full Penn Square loop. But I didn't see them over there like that. I could have just been not paying attention or something like that, but I didn't see the same presence that I saw back in whatever that was.
So
June or July.
there's a big police precinct right sort of down the block, right on Vine Street. It's possible that they stage for City Hall there, because the response time would be really short. It's also, City Hall is probably pretty central, so any of the other locations, they probably have a pretty decent response time from. So maybe that's why they don't.
I remember when we were doing marches and stuff, they were over by the Federal Building, by 5th Street or 6th Street.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see him in direct Center City today, and I didn't see him over by University City either.
I had a question from what you were saying about a police presence. You said there was a police presence at one of the polling places.
Yeah, so I was at the land title building. I think that's what it's called. It's over at 100 South Broad Street, and it's just one of the big skyrise buildings. I think the AC Moore's like the store on the first floor. But there was 2 or 3, not cruisers. There was like a sheriff's truck and then like one of the paddy wagon vans. But I also saw a police officer going in and out of a building on the other side of Moravian Street. So I think that might be their union building right there. I don't know if it was related.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes. I got you. That's because I had heard you. I thought when I heard you the first time you said something about a union. I was wondering if there was like a trade union out with a presence at a polling place for some reason.
Gotcha.
That would have been specifically interesting to me. But
yeah, I think it was just that one building right there is like a police union facility or police union home chapter, something like that.
yeah, they have offices. They have a hall. It's probably one of the two. So
All right,
no bad
go ahead.
things.
Not that I saw. I could try to ask one of these volunteers that are closing up if you want.
I mean, yeah, if you would want to, if any of them are willing to talk, it'd be interesting to hear what they would say.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Marcus. I was helping out with independent news reporting on election coverage. I didn't know if you guys maybe wanted to
I'm just the maintenance guy. I'm looking to lock them up.
Okay.
Looking for information from me?
No, I understand.
You're just commentary, but what's called? I don't have any.
No, I feel you.
For you.
Have you been here all day?
I've been here. I opened up for Ness High School this morning for the voting because it's a little short-staffed on engineers right now.
Okay.
It's whole virus thing. People are out sick, for short-staffed, and so I've been kind of going back and forth between a couple schools.
Okay, I got you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you guys very much for having us.
No problem.
Have a good one. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, no problem. I think they're just closing up for the day.
All right, really appreciate it. I'm going to go to just some more election results that I have here. I'll bring them up on screen for everybody. And thanks, Marcus, for the coverage all night. You can probably head home safely. There's not even any helicopter activity for one evening, which is amazing. It's nice to not hear the drone of helicopters in my ear.
Yeah, it's a great one when the neighborhood isn't sounding like it's somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah. So thanks, Marcus, and have a good rest of your night. We'll catch up in the morning.
Sounds good. Thank you,
thanks. So just showing the results again from the election returns website. As I was saying earlier, they're live updating this as returns come in, and as I was saying earlier, the mail, as they return mail ballots, they're heavily weighted for Biden. 258,000 for Biden so far, only 71,000 for Trump in mail-in ballots. However, if you look at the in-person ballot picture, that's exactly opposite. There's 78,000 Trump in-person ballots and 22,000 Biden ballots reported so far. So that's the race tonight. That's what you're going to be looking at is mail-in ballots versus in-person ballots all night. You're going to be continuing to look at that throughout the night and trying to figure out who's going to win and by what margin, based on mail-in balloting. There's just really no other, the mail-in ballot versus the, sorry for the noise of my cat hitting the microphone. Can't control him. Anyway, yeah, so, it's gonna be about who returns faster, who returns the votes faster. Are the mail-in ballots going to be counted faster? Are the in-person ballots going to be counted faster? Who knows? And it really just depends on the county board of elections in each county. Are they counting them? Which one are they prioritizing? Some interesting follow-ons from that, though. If you look at the down ballot races, oftentimes they tell you a little bit about the accuracy of the returns so far and the general lean of the returns so far. If you look at the Auditor General position, that is going for the Democratic candidate, both on election day results on mail-in ballot results, but not on election day results. So 75,000 for the Republican Auditor General candidate, 20,000 for the Democratic Auditor General candidate in person. However, that's vastly outweighed by the 236,000 mail-in ballots for the Auditor General versus 80,000 for the Republican candidate. Same thing with the state treasurer, Joseph Torricella, the Democratic candidate, winning vastly by mail, but losing vastly by in-person voting. 75,000 votes in person for the Republican candidate, Stacey Garrity, 21,000 votes for Joe Torricella. And these are not really contested offices here in PA. State treasurer is not a hot button issue here in PA. So that's just straight party line voting. Attorney General Josh Shapiro losing wildly by 75 to 25% in-person balloting, but that's in the tens of thousands of return votes so far. Whereas mail-in voting, he's winning wildly, 70% to 25%, with 256,000 votes returned for him so far versus 66,000 for Heather Heidelberg, the Republican candidate. It's just, this is going to be what gets counted faster and who is reporting the counting. Let's see. County-wise, we have Allegheny reporting. We have Blair County reporting. Again, Blair County is still not counting any mail-in ballots yet. We have Clarion County reporting, also not yet reporting any mail-in ballots, reporting all election day result ballots, and those 2,000 for Donald Trump, 500 for Joe Biden. So that's wildly not counting any of the mail-in ballots is wildly throwing off these numbers, and they're going to change by the morning. They're going to change, as soon as they start counting mail-in ballots.
How much of this do you feel like there's maybe some intentionality with the PA legislature to
This isn't PA legislature intentionality. This is individual county elections commissioners' intentionality. This is entirely...
They're the ones who made the decision to not count the mail-in ballots until after the in-person ballots were done. Okay.
Right. They get to decide when they do the counts.
So is there like a deadline where they have to start counting? Or are they going to try to overstep their boundaries with that?
I don't know.
Because it'll be interesting if they decide to not count them, until, a day or two after, and then all of a sudden it's past that mark of even being able to be counted in the actual official election.
I do know that there is an outline from the state election commission of when they're supposed, like timelines for when they're supposed to report. I don't know if they legally have to follow that. Yeah, looking at Cumberland County. Cumberland County is another rural county in Pennsylvania. Nice folks. I've been there plenty of times, but they've counted 0 of their mail-in ballots. So of course, you know, their in-person election. Actually, their in-person election results are relatively even when you consider the weighting of the in-person election results. They have 7,000 ballots counted for Trump, 3,000 for Joe Biden. That's, I mean, if you're looking at what the rest of the counties are doing, where mail-in ballots are being counted, and how wildly opposite that is, you gotta assume that that's pretty evenly weighted if they had counted any of those ballots. Dauphin County, so we go to Dauphin County, which is counting their mail-in ballots at the same time, but hasn't counted hardly any of their election day ballots. 80% towards Joe Biden, 33,000 votes counted for Joe Biden versus 7,000 for Donald Trump in Dauphin County. Elk County, Elk County is the one interesting one that we noted before. You know, they're counting their mail-in ballots and they're counting their election day ballots at the same time. Donald Trump is winning according to their count so far in Elk County, but it is still showing that oppositeness. Democratic votes in mail, 2,000. For Republican votes in mail, 1,500. Democratic votes in person, 600. Democratic votes Republican votes in person, 2,600. So, you know, it's just wildly different depending on what you're counting. Franklin County, again, not counting any of their mail-in votes yet. 11,000, sorry, there's no commas here, so it's difficult to read the results a little bit. 11,000 votes for Trump versus 2,000 votes for Biden. Fulton County has only counted their mail-in ballots, but oddly, Trump is winning there by 100 votes. Greene County has not counted any of their mail-in ballots. Trump is winning in-person balloting by 1,500 versus 300. Indiana County, 3,300 versus 900 for Trump. Trump is winning with 3,300. Haven't counted any of their mail-in ballots. Lackawanna County, I could go on and on. There's just so many counties are not counting their mail-in ballots at all yet. So this is up in the air. Yeah, we're getting more results in as the night goes on. I personally believe this is the race to watch. So if you want to stick with us and watch this race, feel free. I'll keep covering it, even if you guys all need to drop off or anything. So, any thoughts so far on what we're talking about?
I just couldn't imagine if we didn't have mail-in voting for this election. I wonder, you know, I purposely did not vote in person because there's a lot of people in this area. And I've also seen a lot of Trump flags and everything right by my polling place. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to vote for by mail. I drove by my polling place at 2 p.m. and there was no one out there. It was one little old lady with the walker walking out, and that was it. drove by another polling place. There was nobody there. So I couldn't imagine if all of the people who voted by mail this year actually showed up, we'd still be in line right now, probably. And then there will be some voter suppression in that respect also, because they would try to claim, of course, you weren't in line by 8 kind of thing. So yeah, I would be curious if we had to do this in person, and how many people who wouldn't have voted if we had to do it in person.
Yep, it's going to be an interesting night.
Probably going to be interesting for elections to come, how they handle mail-in voting, or how things might change, or if we're still in a pandemic by then, hopefully not. How that will be handled.
I don't know about not being in a pandemic by then. We could be in a pandemic forever at this point. Who knows?
Herd immunity, James. It's just around the corner.
Sure.
We're rounding that corner, right?
This corner and that corner and this third corner.
I'm sure you guys. I'm sure you guys already saw this, but like on his site where he claimed like eliminating. What was it? I forget the exact word, but like eliminating the pandemic, like literally claiming that this is just over as an accomplishment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't
like that's insulting to me, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. As it should be. We flipped our first Senate seat, y'all.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're at.
Democratic Governor John Hickenlooper wins against Republican Senator Cory Gardner in the first Senate flip of the night.
Nice.
How many do we need to flip the Senate? I'm sorry, I'm not up to date on all my numbers.
There are 33 Democrats that are not up for election. There are 30 Republicans that are not up for election. So the election is the remainder of the Senate, and we were